let's install Putty. So Putty is a client, SSH client, okay, which is used to connect to the Linux systems, Linux operating systems. Okay, so to connect to any Linux operating system, you should have at least a Putty or MobaXterm or some other tool to connect it. So in our example, we will be, we'll be going through the Putty and MobaXterm. Okay, so you can just type for download Putty, and you can click on download Putty here. Yeah, so now you can just click on this putty.exe based on your 62-bit or 32-bit. So mine is 64-bit, so I have selected this. Once you have received that, double click this. Yeah, that's it. There is no, specific installation for this putty. Okay, you can just double click on it, it will get open for you. Then we can connect with the IP address and the authorization file and all. Okay, we can do that later. So how we can connect this and all right. Okay, so now we have received this putty. Okay, let's try to download this one like MobaXterm. I will show you how to connect this because we have not yet created that Linux VM, right? So let's see that. So now let's install MobaXterm. MobaXterm download. You can go with free. These are all the two different tools. You can use either Putty or MobaXterm, but MobaXterm is little user friendly compared to Putty. So I'll show you. We can use this. Let's see. Even I didn't install it earlier in this new laptop, so I'm just checking. Okay. So it is still not downloaded yet. Okay, it is getting downloaded. So once this is done, we can create the EC2 machine for Linux. It won't take much time, so let's wait. I'm just closing the other windows. Meanwhile, we can create this Linux instance, maybe. See, so to create that Linux, Linux or Linux, whatever you called, usually it is called Linux. So to create this Linux instance, what you can do now, you can just click on the launch instance. All the remaining steps will be same. Only the creating the key pair that will differ and the AMI will differ. So here I will say the name Clat Linux VM. Okay, just for our understanding, because I have already terminated my Windows one, but just for our understanding, I'm just naming it with this. And here you have to select the Linux one instead of Windows. Earlier we have selected Windows to create the Windows virtual machine. Now you need to select this, and you need to make sure which version is free tier eligible. So we have three options here, it seems. So let's go with the default one. This is also free tier eligible now, so I'm just selecting this. Okay, and Yeah. So here instance type, it is again T2 micro. So it is only the free tier eligible instance type. So that's, and the key pair you can do in two different ways. You can map the existing key pair which we have done earlier, but to connect this key pair with Putty, you need to have the ppk file. So that's why I'm just creating the new one. Okay. So Linux key pair. So see here, for use with Putty, you need to select this ppk version, not the PEM version. For Windows, we have selected PEM. For Putty, PPK. But for MobaXterm, again, you can select the PEM if you want. Okay, we will see that. Okay. So I'm just selecting the PPK as I am going to connect with Putty for this Linux instance. I have selected create key pair and it got downloaded. That PPK file got downloaded. And yeah, and this MobaXterm also downloaded. Let's install it later. Let's see how to connect this via Putty first. And all other remaining options will remain same. I'm not going to touch anything. And you need to observe here, earlier while creating that Windows virtual machine, you can see RDP protocol is enabled by default, but this is a Linux system. So for this Linux, SSH traffic is allowed. So Linux will use SSH protocol. Windows will use RDP protocol, right? So by default, SSH inbound traffic is allowed for this particular virtual machine, and the IP address is anywhere. So you can you can connect it from anywhere, and all the remaining things we can leave it as it is with the defaults. And if you can observe, for Linux, the minimum configuration storage required, internal storage required, is 8 GB. But for Windows, we have already seen it is 30 GB. Okay, if you missed that video, just go to that video and see how you can do that. Yeah, that's it. You no need to do anything. Launch the instance. So the instance get launched. It will take 1 to 2 minutes to come to this state running. It is pending now, right? Yeah, let it up in the meanwhile. So or else let's wait to avoid some confusion. Yeah, within a minute it change it to running, right? That's okay, fine. So now let's try to connect this with Putty. Okay. So here also you need to take the public IP address to connect with. Okay, see here the public IP address is this one. You can select this, and we will try to connect this with Putty first. Then we will install the MobaXterm and see how it goes. So double click this Putty. Here the host name or IP address. Let me just minimize the background one. Yeah, here the IP address or host name. The IP address which we have copied, you need to copy it. I mean paste it here. And the connection type is SSH. And here in the SSH, you have to expand this auth. Here it will ask you for that file, the ppk file. See, public key authentication, private key file for authentication. Okay, certificate with to use. Okay, you need to select this. Okay, select your ppk file which you have downloaded earlier and click on open. It will open a terminal for you. Let's wait and click on accept. See, login as. So by default, for Linux operating system, by default the username is EC2 hyphen user. For Windows, we have already seen it is administrator. That is the default username, right? So but Linux, the default username is EC2 hyphen user. You just remember that. Once you click enter, it will connected. Say user at the rate IP and this IP address which you have given. Okay, so it is connected now. Now we are able to connect to the which Linux operating system or Linux virtual machine by using Putty, right? So this is how you can connect by using Putty. Now let's see how we can connect the same with MobaXterm. That is the another tool. So it got downloaded as a zip file. Let's try to expand this. But for this MobaXterm, I think we need a PEM format, not the PPK format. Let's see. So you can just double click on this MobaXterm. You can click on session, SSH. So here you have to specify your IP address, which we have copied the public IP address, and you can specify username. In this case, it is a EC2 hyphen user. Okay. It will ask you for that security file, secure shell session, right? Advanced SH session. Here you can select use private key. Here you can browse for that file, the ppk file. Let's try with this. If it won't work, then we can create the PEM file. Okay, let's click on OK. So once you click on the accept, yeah, now it got connected. Nice. So you can use ppk file also for MobaXterm tool. You can run any command, it will show you. So now by using MobaXterm also we are able to connect to the Linux virtual machine. See here, EC2 user at the rate this IP address. Whenever you see this terminal, I mean this command, I mean yeah, this terminal condition, you can understand that EC2 instance is, I mean EC2 user is connected to this. If you want to navigate to the root user, not the Amazon root, AWS root user, administrator user of this particular Linux virtual machine. Super user. In Linux terminology, you can call it as super user, but in general, if you want to remember in generic way, it is an administrator account, just like in Windows. So to do that, sudo hyphen I. Yeah, now it moved to root user. So it means you can able to connect to your Linux virtual machine by using MobaXterm tool as well as by using Putty. In the both ways, we can connect it to this server. So you can use any of this tool based on your project requirement or based on your experience. You can do anything, but you can use any tool. You can connect with that. Okay, I have just shown you two different ways to connect. So maybe I'll just close this Putty. Want to close the session? Yes. I'll just go with the MobaXterm for another example, which I would like to show you one more thing with this Linux virtual machine. So for that, I will try to use this MobaXterm. If we see any issues, then maybe we can go back to the Putty. That's not an issue. All right. So that's it. I think you got the point, like how to create a Linux instance, Linux EC2 machine, and how to connect to this Linux EC2 machine via Putty as well as via MobaXterm, both tools. Right. So our next thing would be, I would like to show you one thing, how we can make this Linux server, Linux virtual machine as a web server. Okay, how we can do that? So to convert this, if you remember our web service overuse example, in that session we mentioned like to post our social media, I mean to deploy our social media application which we are going to develop, we need one web server, one application server initially, right? So to make this virtual machine, this is a normal Linux virtual machine. So to make this virtual machine as a web server, as a Apache server, because to run this web applications like HTTP applications or any web related applications, okay, you need the Apache server. Okay, so to convert this normal virtual machine as an Apache server, what you can do, you need to install one HTTP thing, and we will see how we can convert that. Okay, so to do that, we need to go to the root user, but we have already in the root user. This is root user of your Linux machine, Linux virtual machine. You need to remember that this root user is not the AWS root user. Don't get confused. Okay, so we have created a Linux virtual machine. We have connected to the normal EC2 hyphen user, this default user. Now we have moved back to the root user, administrator user of this particular Linux virtual machine, or super user you can say. Right, so we are already in root user. So you need to install HTTP daemon one to make this as a what is that, web server or Apache server. To do that, we have one command, yum install httpd. This is, you don't need to remember these commands, just to make sure, and just wanted to show you how to make this Linux as a web server. I'm just showing it. You don't need to remember this, okay? Just do practice, that's it. So once I click enter, it will install that http for you. Install sizes, yeah, okay. You can click yes. It will install the http server for me. Now I'm just clear it. Okay. Now I would like to create one folder, navigate to one folder where I would like to host one HTML page, index.html page. So whenever I try to connect to this IP address or this web server, it should show me that particular web page. Okay. So to do that, I'm just trying to create one folder structure. No such file or directory. Okay. Yeah, the directory is not there, but when we navigate like this, it should create. Okay, let's create one. Yeah, I have created a HTML file. Yeah, I have now cd means change directory, so I just moved to that particular folder which I have created earlier, the directory. Now if I can say ls-l, it will show me that list of files available. As of now, there is no files, so I would like to create one HTML file, vi index.html. Now it will ask you to post any HTML. I'll just make use of ChatGPT to create some HTML file. You can just, for example, I'm just showing, you can do any HTML page if you have. So it will give this HTML code for you, the ChatGPT one. You can just copy this and go to your Linux, paste it here. Sorry. Paste it here. Escape shift colon WQ. It is saved now. So cat index dot HTML to view the content. Yeah, now the content is saved. So once you let me just show you. So once you run this vi space index.html, it will open a text file kind of thing for you. You can just copy paste the code which you have received from this ChatGPT for the index one, and then you can just click escape button, then click hold the shift button, and if you are a beginner of this Linux user, I'm just telling for them. So hold down the shift button and click the colon, then type WQ and press enter, so that the file will saved here, and you can see the content of the file by using this command cat space index.html. Okay, now we have this HTML page. So once you so with this we have converted our Linux machine into the what is that, web server. Okay, so to see that, you can copy this public address, and in the Google page you can paste it. It should ideally open that index.html page. But it is not getting opened. It will not open. I'll tell you why. What is the reason? Okay, I'm just showing you. Without doing some changes, our Linux server will not open that HTML page as a web page. See, it shows some error. Why? Because we need to do some changes in our security groups. So to understand it in better way, I would like to explain something. Just please pay attention. So I'm just creating one blank diagram. So let's assume that this is your server. Okay, in this server you have one application, one web application. So to access this, let's say this is some internet, so our cloud. Let's say some user. Let's say some user is trying to access this web application via this internet. Okay, so it will user will click in the internet just like google.com something, and they will try to access your page. This is your server. This big box is your server. So instead, in the middle of this server and your request and all, there will be one concept here called security group. Okay, there will be a security group between this while sending, I mean before sending this request and sending the response, you will have one security group. Okay, this is the security group, just like a firewall. So that is why I have drawn in this way. So just like a firewall, this is the wall. It will stop your requests from this internet enter into the server. Okay, this firewall will stop the requests which will enter into the server. So here in this firewall, we need to configure couple of things to allow this traffic into your server. So now this user is trying to access that your web page, which is HTML page. In general, any web requests will be using the HTTP protocol, right? That is why the web server we have installed HTTPD, the process we have installed already in our Linux machine, right? So in order to allow this HTTP requests, see these requests are coming into your server. It means like inbound request. This type of requests are called inbound requests. The requests are coming into your server. This is your server. Here this is our virtual machine. Here this is our Linux instance. Okay, so this is our Linux instance, but these requests are coming from outside by the user over the internet. Your security group is stopped that. Your security group is a kind of firewall. It stopped those requests entering into your server. So the requests whichever coming to your server, which are called inbound requests. The responses which are coming out from, the request which server is getting called, that is called outbound requests. I can say like, so if your server is generating HTTP traffic, if the HTTP traffic is generated from outsider into your server, which is called inbound traffic, inbound to your server. If your server is going to generate the HTTP traffic, that is outbound. What the difference means? Let's say if in your server, if you want to access facebook.com in your virtual machine, if you let's say for example the Windows virtual machine, if you would like to go to Google Chrome, and then if you want to open the facebook.com or gmail.com or any other, those are also HTTP requests. So in that case what happened, your server generating HTTP traffic to the facebook.com, so that is called outbound requests. Okay, let me just draw a line. I'm just trying, yeah. Whenever your server is generating traffic to another web page, that is called outbound. So to access this facebook.com, google.com or any other HTTP service inside your server, from your server, that is nothing but outbound request. Your server is generating HTTP calls to the outside. So that is outbound. Whenever the request is coming into your server, that is your inbound rules. So in our case, what happened, our user, like we are the users and we are trying to access this HTML page from the browser, from the outside. Now our client is our Google Chrome is the client here. So as a user we are going to access this server. Inside that, the index.xml page is the default page which will come as a home page, so that we are accessing. So in our case we need to modify the inbound rules of our server security group. So to do that, what we have to do, this is our Linux instance now, which we have created. Okay, so if you can come down, you will see security here. So here we have not created any new security group. But by default, whenever any VM instance is launched, it will create a security group for you. So for this, it has created the this security group, Launch Wizard 2. This is the security group created by default for your Linux virtual machine. So every EC2 instance will have its own security group for sure. If you have created any custom one, you can use it. Otherwise, by default, AWS itself by default it will create a security group for you. So this is the default one. I have not created the security group. While we are discussing the network session, network topic, networking in AWS, then we will discuss how to create this security group by our own. But for now, it has created the default security group. So once you just open it, it will show you this inbound rules and outbound rules. So in our case, what is the thing? We need to add a inbound rule for HTTP protocol, right? So edit inbound rules. You see by default SSH is allowed here because it is a Linux instance. You can just click add rule. You can select the HTTP here. By default that port is 80 and it will allow. And for the IP addresses you have to select this all zeros. All zeros means from anywhere anyone can access this instance. So now save the rules. Now we have modified our inbound rules. Now let's try to access this server again. Now it should display that index.file. Let me double check once. Just a second. Let's try to add a rule for HTTPS also. I hope that HTML page is having an issue. .html. Let me ask to generate this index.html page. Or else if you have any HTML page code with you, you can use that as well. I'm just copying this. I will do again. This is stuck now. The session is the next step. Press on. It will restart the session. Okay. Sudo -i cd html file and this -n. Now you have total 4 files. Index.xml, html, maybe let me create one more directory. You should have some directory here actually. I mean to say some default directory should be there. So let me just try. This time I will add the latest code which I have taken. Yeah, now escape, shift colon WQ. Okay, now let me see index.html. Okay, it's good. Now let's try to access. No. Okay, let me check the default folder, because we should have, I mean, this Linux this Linux mission should have some default folder. There we need to place this index.html page, then it will treat it as a website, I mean web server. I'll just check that. Just give me 1 minute. Before you do that, we need to start this HTTPD service. We have installed it, but we didn't start it, so we need to start that service first. That I missed it. Service HTTPD start. What is this? Okay, then check on. We need to run these two commands to start the service. And now let's go to cd, where there is no default directly as such, but I think this server is not started earlier. That might be the issue. Let's try to access this now. Yeah, now you can see this website, right? And this is the default HTML code which is generated by ChatGPT, right? That is why it is showing in this way. If you have any good HTML page, you can do that. So all the things you need to do is, see, history I have. Let me just clear the screen. Now I am just showing you whatever the commands I have run so far. Okay, so first thing is, okay, this is little confused now, or else I'll show you one thing. So first thing, once you start your Linux server, once you connect with EC2 hyphen user, you need to first type this and click enter. Then it will connect it to the EC2 user. Then to move to the root user, you need to type sudo space hyphen I. It will take you to the root directory. Then to make this Linux server as a web server, you have to install HTTPD service. That is install HTTPD. You need to run this command. Once you run this, you have to start this service. To start this service, you have to use this command. Service HTTPD start. Okay. So once you are done with that, you need to execute this command to make it run HTTPD service. Okay. Then you need to navigate to the directory cd space where www.html, which I have created. You may try with another directory also. Once you are going, once you are run this command, it will go to the HTML terminal like this. Okay, then what you have to do, then you need to create a HTML file na. So vi space index.html. Okay, you should name the file just index only. Don't change this file name, because whenever you say index.html, that will appear as a home page. So that will default, but a web server will take that index.html as a home page for you. That is why it is opening for you like this. So just run this command. It will open a notepad kind of stuff. Then copy paste the HTML page, HTML code, which you have received from ChatGPT or wherever you want. You can type your, you can paste your HTML code. Then you need to click escape button, and then click on shift plus colon, this button, shift plus colon button. Then type WQ. you need to type just WQ. Don't type this type word. Okay. Then you need to type WQ and enter. It will save the file. Okay, then you need to do this inbound rule changes and all. Then if you can access this via this public IP address, it will show you the same website. You can try with another any other HTML page also. So but the thing is, like, you need to understand, you need to open that HTTP inbound rule in order to access this service. Okay, I hope this video is useful for you. I have covered all the things related to Linux instance. So now I'm going to shut down this instance to make sure I will not get charged. Okay, so I'll terminate this instance now. So I have shown you how to connect with Putty and how to connect with MobaXterm from your Windows system. And if you are using Mac system, you can directly connect with the terminal, which is provided by default by the Mac system. You can connect with that also. From Windows system, you can connect with this MobaXterm or Putty tool. I hope you like this video. You get idea about how you can turn this as a web server, Linux server as a web server. So once you refresh this, it will terminate it. Yeah. Now this is also getting terminated. Right. So this is how you can create the Linux machine and connect via Putty and MobaXterm, or you can turn your Linux virtual machine as a web server. So please do subscribe to our channel and like our videos, share our videos to your nearest one, I mean your near and dear, your friends, whoever looking to learn this AWS from scratch. And yeah, if you have any doubts, you can just shoot your questions in our comment section. I'll very happy to help you. So thank you so much. Please do subscribe.